So I guess, yeah, COVID was an absolute sort of shock to the system. I guess I'd take it back a bit further as well, because like other providers, we've had over a decade of welfare reform, where government policy has really deferred customers to manage their benefits and manage their rent accounts online. So we needed to make sure that our offering was compatible with an online offering. We've had 10 years of austerity politics, so that idea of doing more with less, that we all know is a bit of a fallacy, but we all have to be more efficient. And then on top of that, we have COVID, and the idea that overnight, like, all the power was switched off. You can't go and visit customers, you can't go and knock on the door, that sort of thing. So that took a real shock to the system. And one of the things that Greatwell have done following our response to COVID, so we've adopted a hybrid working policy. So I'm talking to you from Leicester, Catherine and Selina in Northamptonshire. Well, our officers work from home, but they will travel to Wellingborough once or twice a week to try and capture those customers who are more hard to reach than others. So we needed to make sure that our offering was compatible with hybrid working. So the fact that if you come into Wellingborough, if you drive from Leicester to Wellingborough, it's like a 50-mile round trip. If the customer you wanted to knock on the door, if they're not in, then that's half of your day gone. So we needed to make sure that the income solution we had supported the most effective methods of communication possible. And it kind of linked in with our customer experience as well. We did a lot of surveys with customers sort of during COVID and after COVID, saying, well, how do you prefer to engage with us as your landlord? And this wasn't just people in arrears, this was people talking about housing management, repairs, everything. And what we found that actually a home visit or an office visit was right down on the lower list of priorities. People wanted to be contacted by phone, by text, by email. So we needed to make sure that our offering sort of covered that. We'd done some work previously with VoiceScape. So we bought the Collections Manager module, which we had a really good experience with, because again, it took these elements of nudge theory and behavioural insights that I'm very fond of and had used in previous roles. What I like about sort of the behavioural insights piece is that you can often deliver big changes at small costs. So the way in which a letter's worded or a text is, or the time of day that a text is sent, can get you a radically different response from each customer. So we were conscious of that and was very interested in that when VoiceScape came with their offering. We had a relationship with one of the market leaders in income analytics, and we've been with them for 4 years, and it was so it was okay, but there were some issues that it was over recommending a lot of cases. So one of the income analytics sort of product needs to ensure that it's only bringing these customers to your attention that you need to speak to. What we were finding was the product that we had was over recommending a lot of cases, which was quite problematic because it took away from the efficiencies that it offered. There was a really long roadmap, so we take a holistic view of rent arrears. So as well as your rent arrears, it's former tenant arrears, it's recharges, it's court costs, and we wanted that system to make recommendations on sub accounts. And they said, well, yeah, it's on the roadmap, and it was on the roadmap for about sort of 3 years and didn't really get there. So that was a bit of a challenge. And we all know that we're in a bit of a tight spot at the moment. So with the economic picture in the next year, 18 months being quite grim, I knew that we had to increase our resources on the income team. And rather than increasing the headcount, which was a conversation I had initially with Catherine, like, well, we'll just need to get another officer. We sort of laid down a challenge. Well, actually, let's see what's out there. Let's see what technology can offer us, and that kind of led us to this project in researching the market, if you like, to see what was out there.
Yes, of course. So yeah, as Chris mentioned, we were looking at how we can improve our income collection rate. Even though it was very good, anything could be better. So we did some soft market testing to see what was out there, and there's not a huge amount of products that laid at your disposal for income collection. So we did some testing, gave yourself and some other providers a bit of a wish list of what we were looking for. And yeah, what really we wanted was obviously a better system that interacted with our housing management system as well. The system we were using was a list of recommendations, but that was pretty much it. And as Chris alluded to, it was over recommending every week, which wasted a lot of officer time, because even though it was the same case coming on every week, you still had to check it every week, just in case that was the week where they did actually default on a payment. So we found that we were wasting a lot of time on those lower interactions and not being able to spend as much time on the customers that really needed our expertise. So that was pretty much our wish list, really. And on top of that, we wanted the ability for voice Greatwell or whatever system we were going to use to read our housing management system's notes. So we were clicking a lot from one system to another. We wanted something that would interact and talk to each other. So a lot of the information would be in one place, again, saving time from going from one system, getting some information from another one. We wanted more confidence in the recommendations that were given to us on a week by week basis, not just less, but know that those customers definitely needed a contact in one form or another. And like Chris said, we and ahed, do we get another officer? Arrears are increasing. The economic climate is really, not good out there. And like most teams, we struggle sometimes with staff absences. Quite often you have people on holiday or on sick, and try to cover them is really, really difficult. What is fantastic about VoiceScape is you can just literally put a whole officer's caseload into automated if you wanted to, and they all get a text, they all get a voicemail. So you can almost like park one, if someone's on holiday, their recommendations for a week, but they're still being contacted, but it's not being contacted by an officer, which we found, incredibly useful and really, really productive as well. So yeah, we gave a wish list and lots of ticks came back with VoiceScape, really. And yeah, we already had the collections, as Chris said. So we'd already started to know how you worked and how it worked. We were a bit nervous about, if somebody gets a voicemail, an automated voice, are they going to think it's a fake? Are they going to ring us back? We don't get much success rate when we ring a customer, so why would they respond to an automated message? But straight away we were getting a 60 to 70% callback rate from these automated messages, and we worked with Gary and his team of what those messages should be, and using that nudge theory and some different messages. So not necessarily speak to us about your rent account, speak to us about your tenancy. It got people's interest and it got them ringing us back, and we were able to have those conversations that we needed to have about their rent arrears. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey. Yes, it's been the team. Well, I will have to say, and I'm not getting paid for this, but the team have been brilliant. They're absolutely brilliant. The customer service has been excellent. Straight away, weekly reviews were set up, which we found incredibly useful to discuss any potential barriers or concerns or any questions that we had. 2 years worth of data was given to VoiceScape, so they could start. And Gary, I'm not very tech, so forgive me, I'll just say it in literal layman's terms. But, you started to do your wonders of how these customers should, how they react to us, and the best ways for us to contact them. Is it a text? Is it a voicemail? Is it, actually manual intervention? And there is some nervousness with that, because, they're really going to respond to a voicemail? They're really going to respond to a text? They're not... should we not be out there knocking on the door? But the proof has been in the pudding, and we saw that with the collections, that if you get the messaging right, they do contact us through those methods. So that's we started to find that very, very early on, really. So those weekly reviews have been invaluable, but the team are there, every day with any emails that we got any questions, any issues. We've only inputted our general needs currently. We actually go live tomorrow. So we've been testing for months, and the testing's been going very, very well. And we've had the luxury of having both systems like running concurrently. So we've been able to have that confidence of checking that what VoiceScape is saying is what our previous system was telling us as well. So we have had that luxury, which has been good. But we found very, very early on, really within the first few weeks, that the data that VoiceScape was giving us was very, very accurate. And all those recommendations that were being over-recommended just weren't showing up on the VoiceScape list, and rightly so as well. So we found that very, very early on. So we go live tomorrow with all our general needs, and then we'll be adding all our shared ownership leaseholds and stuff. It's there ready to go, but we just wanted to do a bit of a soft rollout really initially. So we've got that confidence that, you know, all our general needs, which are our, you know, majority of cases and our bread and butter, that if they're right, we're going to be confident that the other 10 years, once we get them in, and the former tenant arrears will be just as accurate really. So that's where we are. So the team, are ready to go live tomorrow, which is exciting.
You know, when we introduce something new, there's always a bit of pushbacks. But when we showed the team what VoiceScape can do, they really enjoyed it. So it's the positives of the functions that are completely different to what we were using. As Catherine said before, it was just a list, whereas on VoiceScape, there's so much more. We have the list, but on each account that you click on, there's so much stuff and data that you can see next to it. So you can see all your notes, and you can see the rent account, you can see lots of history. But there was also other bits where we found positives. Oh, we're really enjoying this. Like, for example, the telephone number that's associated with that account, you literally just click on it, and it will automatically open up a text messaging service for you. And that's the same for the Outlook as well. So it was really good, and it just stopped any kind of GDPR. So it was another tick as well. So the team really started liking that more and more. There was, as they were seeing the recommendations reduced, there was more job satisfaction, because they were able to concentrate a lot more on those tenants that really needed the help. So it really turned into quality on those accounts rather than quantity, trying to just get through to that list. And in return, we had more happy tenants. So it was a win-win. There was times where our systems went down, so not VoiceScape system, but our own systems. So we went to VoiceScape and asked if they could tweak some stuff for us, give us extra data, which meant that we can still work without our systems, because we would have the GDPR data to ask those security questions. So that was just a massive bonus as well on there. So the team are really enjoying it. I ask them each week in our team meetings, what's your feedback, good or bad? I need the bad as well to improve this, but they just keep saying to me, no, it's great, there's nothing there. So it's really working very well.
Well, there's a lot of knowledge that you have to put behind it. So when you think of like AI and machine learning, that, you know, these are things that, you know, not everyone kind of understands or might have a negative impression of. I think for us at Greatwell, one of our, you know, unique points is our culture. So we are very open to new thinking, and our exec team are quite supportive in that. So for example, our last corporate plan, we had a strategy called Transforming Our Future, which all talked about how we can maximize a customer experience whilst using more technology and, you know, driving those efficiencies. I think the second thing, you know, we can go in with all the, you know, blind them with science kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, you know, my job is to provide assurance to the exec team and the board that the service is performing, and the best way to do that is through results. So as I mentioned, we previously bought the VoiceScape collections module, and that worked really well. So we were able to show some really positive signs with our rent arrears collection. In fact, we delivered, when we bought the collections module, we actually delivered our best ever arrears total year-end results, and that was the first time we'd ever been below 2% arrears, which was a phenomenal achievement for Catherine and Selena and the guys. Now, that's not all because of the technology. That's down to the officers and our approach as well. But when it came to sort of talking to my boss Julie about moving away from our current supplier for income analytics to something that was a bit different, I was able to say that we've had this previous positive experience, and you know, these are the results. This is how the rent arrears have been impacted. This is the efficiencies for officers. These are the amount of calls we're managing to get through. So it made that sell slightly easier. I've also worked for organisations that are a lot more cautious. One example being a very traditional local authority in the East Midlands that were kind of very wary about this sort of stuff. So I think, you know, using the words pilot projects have always worked really well with kind of getting execs and stuff on board. So it's a low risk way to go in there. But I'd say, yeah, I mean, it's down to your organisational culture. And I think housing associations and the housing sector, by definition, are very embracing of change. You know, not that we designed that change ourselves. I've mentioned, you know, we had COVID, we've had austerity, we've had welfare reform, we've had rent caps, you know, we've had rent reductions, and the sector always responds really well to that. So I think, you know, by our very nature as an industry, we do respond well to change. But so yeah, culture and results, that's the journey for us. I mean, I think, you know, as I've mentioned, the industry is very resilient to change. So I think it's always about don't be wary of the change. And I think one of the challenges was one of the scary points for us really was, well, we could sit with our current provider and, you know, we could have a system that we said, well, yeah, no, we do that, or we could, you know, take a leap of faith and say, what, you know, this might be better. So I think, you know, be open to exploring the other options that are out there, and that might not put you might take you out of your comfort zone a little bit. I think what we're seeing now, and I think, you know, over the last 10 years is, you know, people talk about, you know, the Amazonification of customer services. So if I order something from Amazon, I know where it is, I know where the driver is and that sort of thing, and that becomes a really unique experience. And I think it's almost like on the verge of a new industrial revolution around sort of AI, machine learning, algorithm-based decision-making modules. And, you know, if I was a farmer, I wouldn't want to be cutting my crops with a scythe when the farmer next to me is, you know, using a tractor, for example. And it can be as simple as that. I think the technology is certainly developing. It's out there. We know that the short-term future in the sector is going to be quite volatile in terms of rent collection, cost of living crisis on customers. We expect arrears to go up. We expect enforcement measures to go up. So what I've found, you know, really useful about sort of the AI products, if you like, is they're taking on the slack for you. So it's not a replacement for human interaction, but there are some tasks. I remember when I was a rent officer, you know, I'd be trying to ring customers up and not getting through to them, and that was a high intensity task. It took a lot of time, but for very low reward. So actually, if you've got a system that says this is the way to do it and this is the results that show it, actually that can automate that part of it, and I can spend the rest of my day with a customer who needs sort of a long-term personal intervention, in opposition to those customers who just need a poke, say, do you know what, your direct debit's failed, do you want to set something up, or do you need an arrangement, something like that. There are customers, as we know, that are out there that are going to really struggle over the next few months. So having the AI system, so the Caseload Manager sort of, you know, being intelligent for us, it gives Catherine's team and Selena's officers that flexibility to talk to customers who really need it. And that's, you know, and that's what we're all about really. It's about, you know, stopping people from coming homeless, making sure that the income is retained in the business, and making sure that people still have a roof over their heads.